Hello YouTube, it's Zayn, and today I am here with Coolmans
Hello there.
and Zason.
Howdy.
And for the first time ever, we are going to be trying something a little new. We will be talking about an article. I'll probably have what the video's about in the description, so today we'll be talking about the flight sim company embeds malware to steal pirates' passwords. The article itself will be listed in the description if you want to read more. You've probably already heard about this. So without further ado, I will let Zason narrate the opening line of the article.
Flight sim company Flight Sim Labs has found itself in trouble after installing malware onto users' machines as an anti-piracy measure. Code embedded in its A320X module contained a mechanism for detecting pirate serial numbers distributed on the Pirate Bay, which then triggered a process through which the company stole usernames and passwords from users' web browsers.
All right. So that's kind of that is a pretty apt description of what happened. Before we discuss the full article in detail, would you like to now explain the update on February 20th?
On February 20th, Flight Sim Labs has issued another statement, this time much more detailed, which explains that the company was targeting a specific cracker of their games. Flashback to our first A320X release, we discovered soon after the release of our product for these simulator versions that there were specific crackers who were successful in sidetracking our protection system by using offline serial number generators. We could not find out how this would happen, but we happened upon a particular set of information that would occur recurrently from specific IP addresses. We tried to add more tests in our subsequent installer releases, but the specific hackers were also upping their game and ensuring they sidetracked our installer. We even went so far as to figure out exactly who the cracker was. But unfortunately, we could not be able to enter the registration-only websites he was using to provide this information to other pirates. We found through the IP addresses tracked that the particular cracker had used Chrome to contact our servers, so we decided to capture his information directly, and only his information, as we had a very good idea of what serial number the cracker used in his efforts.
Alrighty, so that's basically their defense. Now, opening opinions. Coolmans.
Well, okay, so I don't think that the company here who's doing stealing the passwords is in the right at all, but also I don't think the person who's pirating the game is in the right. It's sort of like a lose-lose situation here.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And Zason?
I would just argue that it's possibly the stupidest thing they've ever done. Someone doing something illegal to you doesn't mean you should do something debatably more illegal back.
Oh, okay. And all right. So I've created a couple questions here. First question is, first question's probably been answered. Was it wrong for them to do this? I think
Yes.
we've already. That one I'll just kind of throw under the rug. The second question is, how important do you think the fight against piracy is? Coolmans.
Okay, so coming from, I'm not a good developer at all, but I still develop things, and I know how much time and effort and money it takes to produce these games. And it's, compared to something that you would buy in a store. If somebody goes in and just steals something from your store, you're, they're gonna call the cops.
Yeah,
and
it's
especially if it's expensive.
And even if you get away with it, it's gonna straight piss them off.
Right. But now you take it online, and you can't really get the cops to go after someone who has pirated something. Now, I never pirate anything myself, but I know other people do, and I don't really care that they do it. But from a developer's standpoint, it's literally just having your stuff stolen. And I mean, I think it's important that we sort of prevent some people from producing these keys from a developer standpoint. But I know other people would also just argue that they want free games. But I don't think free games is necessarily the answer here, because if everything just becomes a free game, then you're practically just going to have developers stop making expensive games.
All right. And Zason, you want to chime in?
Well, I agree with what Coolman says. I think there's a small problem with the difference between stealing something physical and stealing something digital. When you steal something digital, you haven't stolen it from anyone in particular, aside from the developers. But what I mean is you haven't
lost the product.
Yeah, they can still sell it. The problem is the people who were going to pirate something in the first place were going to pirate it regardless. Let's be entirely frank here. They were never going to buy the game to start with. Frankly, at this point, all you're doing 99% of the time is spending a bunch of your time and effort, and depending on how you go about it, inconveniencing your own consumers to stop something that in the end truly isn't affecting your sales in any real manner.
I would partially disagree there, just because I know I myself has been tempted to pirate a game that was expensive, but I mean, I'm the type of person who would normally pay for an expensive game, and if I'm not paying for it, they're not getting my money, and I know I've been tempted to do it, so...
Well,
but at the same time, you are an absolute minority in that.
I think the... I'm gonna play kind of a intermediate role or intermediate stance here and say that like trying to combat piracy has right and wrong ways to do it. It should be done, but it shouldn't be done to the detriment of the customer. So like I like Steam DRM because it's very feature rich and it doesn't feel intrusive most of the time.
I'll give you that one. It's a very fine DRM. I don't care about using the platform a whit because of it.
And I will say, like, and I will agree with Zason here, a customer isn't... A pirate isn't always going to be a customer regardless. Like, if someone started with the inability to buy the game at all, then they're never going to be a customer if they're unable to buy the game. Whether that be because they're just too poor themselves, or whether that means they're just in like a country that can't get access to the game. Like, you know how Germany sometimes blocks off certain games or censors certain games, and if people want the original version, sometimes it might involve a little piracy. Anyway, moving on to the next question here. The company that installed this malware does seem to have learned from their mistakes. Would you trust this company enough to play their games had you been playing them in the first place? Coolmans?
Well, I mean, as I've already said, I tend not to pirate games, and I don't really judge a game by the people who made it. I judge it by what's in it. So, I mean, I've played flight sim games. I don't know if I've played this specific one, but I'd probably take a look at it. Doesn't look like it'd be that bad, especially if they're putting in malware to prevent it from being hacked. That means they spent a lot of time on it. But yeah, definitely.
All right, Zach?
Yeah, probably. As long as it can be confirmed that they haven't snuck in any malicious files again, which I think they've learned their lesson about that one.
All right, so I think that's the decision is pretty unanimous. I will like to say, though, that this, like, the attempt at using malware in this way could have possible repercussions. Like, if this malware was saving more than just pirates' passwords, even if the company itself did not have malicious intent, the malware could have been breached by a third party with more malicious intent.
I mean, even beyond that, even if they only targeted pirates, they've still broken the law in basically every country on the planet. They're not getting out of this without some sort of legal repercussions.
But that being said, I do agree that their intentions were in the right place, and they weren't, according to them, they weren't trying to be malicious themselves. So, yeah, I could give them a pass. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up all of the questions I had. Thank you for watching. This has been Zayn of the Wired Rabbit YouTube channel, and I've been accompanied by Coolmans and Zason. Would you guys like to say goodbye?
Fare thee well.
See you some other time.
And I'll talk to you guys soon.